I want to believe we have the speakers also on ground. Thank you for joining us, and also good morning to the very important members of the NECA family that I can see on the call. Victoria's on the call, the chairman, CPA. I can see Joke Ali on the call, Mr. Sagiri on the call. Quite a number of very important stakeholders, Mrs. Mbola Oduole on the call, very important stakeholders that have joined us for this very important conversation. And the reality for us is more gloomy than many people can imagine. AI is here, and one way or the other, it's facilitating, enhancing not only the quality of work, but also increasing effectiveness and efficiency within the context of time spent. But many have not really taken time to look at the downtime. Someone said, whatever you get for free online, that it is not really free, that you are probably the product. That anything you get for free, whatever facility you use for free online, that it is not really free, that you are actually the product. So whether we are using Google for free, we have our Gmail, free Gmail platforms. We have so many of these platforms that we use for free. The assumption or the reality is that we are actually the product, because it's either your data is being traded, it's either your information is being traded, and the algorithm is actually converting every login, converting every request, converting it into data that the owners of those platforms are actually maximizing. So AI has come, and many of us have access to many of these AI platforms, many of the free platforms. And it has been established that, look, every information we pull in, both corporate information and personal information, they become data at the back end for use, which has also raised the big question of governance. That how do we use AI within the context of the individual? How do we use AI within the context of the organization, as it were? Because the risk is expanding, and if there is no breach, if there is no control, then we all risk a monumental exposure, both at the individual and then at the corporate level. And we feel it is important for us to start engaging progressively in the course of the year, so that we start understanding what are the risks that we face, what are the governance structures that each organization have to put in place, and what are the governance structure that even as individuals we have to put in place, so that we don't necessarily expose ourselves to the downside of AI. But AI is here to stay. It's here to help. It has been helping, and I believe strongly it will continue to play its role in navigating the workplace, and also making us as individuals, making us even much more efficient and effective in the context of our different roles. I really want to appreciate our speakers, the three speakers that we have that will be discussing this very important issue with us in the next few minutes. We cannot thank Victoria enough, because she has always been I don't know which adjective to use for NECA. I really want to appreciate you and thank you for your support. And the other speakers also, we really want to appreciate you, and we hope that we can continue to engage you within the context of this conversation. This is probably one of the series of conversations we'll be having, especially as it concerns AI governance, not AI itself, but AI governance, which is the key issue that the world is now focusing on. Once again, thank you for accepting to be part of this very important conversation. I also appreciate colleagues that have facilitated or that are making this happen at the back end. So I hand over back to you, Lami, even as I wish the 135 of us. The number is increasing. When I started my comment, it was 99. Now we have 137, 138, 139. So hopefully we can hit the 1,000 mark before the end of this session. So kindly reach out to your colleagues, reach out to others to join this conversation, because it's going to be very definitive and very important in the context of how we manage, how we operationalize, and how we live with AI at the workplace and also as individuals. So thank you once again. That means I hand over back to you.
Thank you very much, Gigi, for that opening remarks. Thank you so much. Without wasting much of our time, Sir and Ma would like to move to the next section, which is responsible AI adoption in the workplace, the governance imperative for employers. And this will not be taken by no other person than Mrs. Victoria Waduka. She's the chairperson committee of corporate communication and public affairs expert. With warm welcome with our emojis, please let's make welcome Mrs. Victoria Waduka, our very own chairperson. Please, I'm not seeing the emojis, I'm not seeing the emojis. Please let the emojis. Yes, please let's keep it rolling. Mrs. Victoria, please, you have the floor. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Forgive me that I am not on the camera. I've tried to turn it on and it's not working yet. I'm sure it will very soon. I am very excited to be here this morning for this very important topic. Thank you, Mr. DG. Thank you, members of the Secretariat. Thank you, Damilola, for that great introduction. Thank you, all of you. I see all the warm emoji. Great to feel the warmth and the welcome. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to spend the next 15 minutes to talk to us about responsible AI adoption in the workplace. Mr. DG has said quite a bit. If you get anything for free, you are probably the merchandise. You are the product. You are what the owner of that platform or that service is, making money from. And that is our reality. So as we all know, AI is rapidly becoming a defining capability for organizational competitiveness, for productivity, for long-term resilience, whether it's in business, in government, in education, in healthcare, in communications, especially you see AI. In financial services, you see AI. So AI is truly changing how value is created, and it's changing how decisions are made and how services are delivered. It is really changing the ways of working. So for many organizations today, from recruiting to talent management to customer service, it is all being managed by AI, right? I'd like to just pause to make sure that you can hear me, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can, ma'am.
Yes, please. We can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So many organizations are already on the journey. Some are experimenting, some are scaling, but others are still deciding, where do we start, right? Regardless of where you are on this journey, there is a reality that is becoming very, very clear to us very quickly, very rapidly. And Mr. DG has mentioned that is around governance. So AI adoption is very good for productivity. It is very good as a tool, but AI adoption without governance is a huge, huge risk. And we're going to see how that is a risk. For employers, the central question today is not, are our employees using AI? They are. Your workforce is probably using AI for reporting, for communication, for analysis, using AI for every single thing that they're doing. And that is a very good thing to happen because it's helping us gain speed, it's helping us gain traction, especially when you want to do routine tasks or research. AI is very important. And your staff don't need to take permission from you before using the AI if you have not put a governance in place. So we're going to discuss why that is a risk. Now, AI governance is not a communications issue, it's not a technical issue, it's not a technology issue, it's not an IT issue. It is actually a leadership issue, and that's something that we need to be very clear about. So today, I'm very happy to discuss why responsible AI adoption in the workplace has become a governance imperative and what employers must do now to turn AI from technology opportunity into a responsible business advantage. And why should we care, right? When we talk about AI, most of us are thinking, oh, productivity, automation, efficiency, innovation, speed, cost optimization. These are very real benefits and they're very significant. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of these particular issues. But while AI can help us gain speed, we need to think about what I said earlier, that capability without governance introduces material business risks. And we have to consider these risks. Now, what are these risks? I'll just go through them, and I'm sure that there are things that we've encountered or that we've thought about. One is data privacy. And we all know that there is an IP law in Nigeria. You can gain prison time if you're not aware of the IP laws. The same issues we talk about when we look at AI, because AI can crawl AI. If you attach your work laptop to AI, it can crawl your emails, it can crawl your official documents. So there must be some control around this. There's data privacy risks. Employees may unknowingly upload confidential information into the public AI platforms. So you need to tell them how you want them to use it. Now, where I work currently, which is at Nestle Nigeria, we actually have an AI that is created for the organization. And that is the only AI tool that you're allowed to load your official or confidential, depending on the level of confidentiality, documents to. But that is because we have a governance in place. Because a single error can expose sensitive business information, customer data, which will put you in trouble, your IP, which is what you make money from, employee records can be out there if you don't put a governance around it. Now, another thing that is very common as well is accuracy risks. Recently there was a challenge with one of the top consulting agencies in Australia. They had a job, and it was a job that they could have done very well, but there was the use of AI, and there was some accuracy risk in that. It was reputational damage for one of the big four when it comes to consulting, and it cost them money as well, right? So AI generates convincing content, but the truth is that because it is convincing, it doesn't mean that it is real. It doesn't mean that it is true, and you can try it out for yourself. You can ask AI to look for you, and you'll see if AI is able to find you, right? Oh, I think I forgot to share my screen. Thank you for doing that. AI has that tendency to hallucinate. I mean, it can create information that looks so real, so convincing that even you'll be asking, oh, when did I do that, right? You can just try it out. Ask it about your organization, ask it about yourself, and you'll be surprised at some of the things that AI will pull up, because there is an accuracy risk when it comes to AI. Now, there's also, as humans, we have unconscious biases, right? And what you find in AI, or what AI brings back to you, are the sets of information, the large data, the large information, large body of information that is already online. That is what AI takes information from. So of course, the bias that is out there, that is in the available information or data, would crawl into the information that AI is producing. So there's a challenge of fairness. It can be discriminatory, because if there is already bias in the content that is uploaded online, then it is possible that there'll be some discriminatory information that will help you to make, and I said help, very intentionally, that will help you to make the wrong decisions. And that is why it is very, very important for us to ensure that we maintain the human interface. The humans still have to be responsible. Maintain a human face for your AI use. That is very important. And that's something that would go into your policy document, into your governance around the use of AI in your organization. Of course, there is a reputational risk. If we've talked about, the risk of bias, we've talked about accuracy risks, we've talked about data exposure risks, you can imagine that there is a risk of reputational credibility, a risk of reputation and a risk of credibility. The trust that you've spent years to build can be lost in a minute with poorly governed AI standards or AI use. Misinformation is a problem. Discriminatory outcomes, problem. Customer dissatisfaction, a problem. Public criticism, a problem. Governance is very important because it will help you to build trust. Trust is something that is, it's currency. It's not just something that is a nice to have or a good to have. It is currency. You can trade with it. You can do business with it. That is what trust does. So there is a reputational risk when it comes to the use of AI. Please, let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So AI governance, like I mentioned earlier in the introduction, is a leadership responsibility. Today, ESG has become as important as financial returns or financial success or financial responsibilities. ESG responsibilities are just as important. Okay, and what is going to happen, or what has started to happen already with the speed of AI adoption, is that AI governance more and more sits with executive leadership, and that is the right thing to do. It is not an IT function, it's not a HR function, it's not any isolated function of communication or any of the departments or professions. It is a cross-functional responsibility. It sits in the boardrooms, it sits at the board levels, not only with one single person, it sits across all functions. So there is executive accountability, board oversight, plus cross-functional ownership will ensure that you have an airtight governance that needs to be monitored and communicated again and again until your people, your employees, and your leaders are aware of what they need to do and why that is important. Boards oversee cyber risks, they oversee ESG risks, and then they must begin to oversee AI governance because it is becoming more and more important. And with the importance, the risk is growing. You can imagine something that has become so central to the way we work, the way we live, the way we do business, the way we communicate. That thing that is so important, so critical, so central to how we do business as organizations must be governed. And, I want to go back to talking about business trust. If we could go to the next slide, please. You know that trust is a strategic business asset, okay? Because customers, employees, investors, communities, every stakeholder expects organizations to do a couple of things. One of those key things is to protect data. I don't want to know that my data is out there. I don't know what happened to my data, and that's why organizations take it very seriously when there's a data risk, and they are obliged to let the owners of that data know that there's been a breach. Recently I think there was a breach with one of the banks. I don't want to name names. It's very important for them to disclose that when there is a data breach so that you know how to begin to protect your very critical assets, right? They expect, all your stakeholders expect an organization to make fair decisions. They expect you to manage risks responsibly. And more importantly, they expect you to act ethically at all times. So responsible AI use is not simply a technology initiative. It is a trust, it is a risk, and it is a reputation strategy. If you handle it well, it can actually help to strengthen confidence in the organization, and it can help to support long-term business sustainability. Because, from supply chain to delivery to customer engagement, AI can actually facilitate that and give you the systems to listen, to monitor, to engage that are second to no other. In my job as a communicator, AI is part of my day-to-day. I probably use Claude all the time for analysis, for reporting. I use ChatGPT to run the summaries and the reports. And I use Gemini, when I need to do other tasks. I use the Druid to write. There are so many AI tools that make life easier today, especially when organizations are becoming leaner and leaner, to really optimize the cost of doing business. So these are things that you must bear in mind as businesses. Trust is your currency, and trust you must protect at all costs. Trust is more important than your financial bottom line, because that is what will sustain your financial bottom line in the long term. Okay, so with that, I'd like to talk about AI and the future workforce, which is already here today. If we can go to the next slide, please. So when we talk about the future of the workforce, we look at it as something that is yet to come. But I want to assure you that in the past 5 years, we entered the future of work. When I was in Microsoft, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were already talking about the new ways of work. Bring your own devices, work where you are, remote working. We're talking about all of that. And the technology to manage all of that or to facilitate all of that was built as far back as that. Big Brother has been in the house for a very long time. Now the future workforce is here. And what are the skills that we see that are most important today? The skills that we see today that are most important are digital skills, right? And then, we're seeing more and more that second to that is AI literacy. That is what is becoming more important. You know that today, most of your workforce will be asking you, what's going to happen tomorrow? Is AI coming to take my job? AI is coming, AI is coming. While the leaders are thinking about capability gaps, they're thinking about transitions, they're thinking about disruptions in the workforce, they're thinking about staff coming and leaving and all of that happening. The workforce is asking another question. Is AI coming to take my job? Will I still have a job next year? Will I still have a job tomorrow? Will I have, and companies are beginning to optimize what I can do with AI. Why do I need staff for it? But there's something that, we found that happens year over year over year. And we've seen that with major transitions, especially in technology. Technology does not eliminate the need for people. It just changes the nature of work. And the key factor there is adaptation. So staff or the workforce need to adapt, organizations need to adapt as well. The organizations that would thrive are those who are not necessarily experts, really, in AI or have their whole workforce as experts in AI. They are those who understand it and use it responsibly. That is what is going to happen. So what do we need to invest in to build the capability for the workforce of today and the workforce of the future as we begin to see the generation alphas coming into the workforce to join the Gen Zs that we see in the workforce? These are digital natives. They were born with devices in their hands, basically. So what are we seeing? There's more data literacy. There's more digital skills that we're seeing. But that must be combined with creativity. That must be combined with ethical judgment. And that's why I said that the human element must always remain foremost. The most important thing is the human judgment. And then the second most important thing is the ethical judgment. Those two things must work hand in hand to ensure that you are building a workforce that will take you into the future. So as you invest in AI literacy, digital skills, critical thinking, really empowering your workforce to make creativity a natural part of the day. Make sure that you're establishing a strong governance that makes human judgment central. So there must be a human that is responsible for every process. Do not give away your decision making to the AI, because AI will make decisions based on what it sees online, which might not be what you are looking for. Okay, so with that, I'd like to go to the next slide. I think I'm watching my time to make sure that I don't keep us longer than that. So what do we need to do now? You know, if we say that AI governance is a leadership responsibility, what should we do differently from today? I think that the priority is now to create that governance framework. We must create a governance framework that defines approved AI use cases. That framework must define the accountability structures. It must define the risk controls. It must define the escalation processes. And it must define the reporting mechanisms. So mistakes might happen, leaks might happen, but how you address them is a core part of your governance framework to protect, the trust that your stakeholders, all the way from your employees to your suppliers to your shareholders to your consumers, have in your organization. That is very important. Now we've talked about, building AI literacy across the workforce. So I'm not going to dwell on that. Every employee does not need to be an AI engineer, no. But every employee must and should understand AI's opportunities as well as the risks. So they must not understand only the opportunities. They must understand the risks. They must not understand only the risks, so they are free to use it. They must understand the opportunities and the risks and the escalation process and reporting mechanism if anything does happen. So let's not wait for regulation. And I know that our my fellow speakers are going to speak to the Nigerian AI strategy, and they're going to really break it down for us. But let's not wait for that regulation to force us to comply. Let's comply proactively, because that helps us to build a system that we understand and a system that works for us and works for every stakeholder. Now, the third thing, and we mentioned it before, is that there must be data discipline. So prioritize data governance within your AI governance framework. Strong AI starts with trustworthy data. Garbage in, garbage out, as we've always said, since the age of the computers, it is still the same today. Organizations must know what data they collect and the why of collecting the data, because sometimes we're just collecting data. How do you use that data? How do you protect the data? How do you erase the data when it's no longer in use? How do you protect the trust that people have in you when they share their data with you? And I'm going to emphasize this again. Establish that human oversight structure, reporting framework, responsibility framework, accountability framework. All of that must be embedded. Make sure that you understand it. Make sure that every single person understands it. And that's where communication comes in. From the beginning to the end, you see that I've not put communication as a separate body of work that needs to be done, because communication runs across the business. Communication is a co-pilot from setting up your governance framework all the way to human oversight. Communication is a core part of it, because we must make sure that every single person, whether they're standing at the gates or they're in the boardroom, that they understand what everybody needs to do, because they will use the AI. They understand how they need to use it and how to react if anything happens. So it's not whether AI will shape the future. No, that's not the question that we need to ask here. With human oversight, what we need to ask is, are we shaping AI's future in our organization? And Mr. Digi also talked about, how we're actually creating that governance framework for our individual use. Are we shaping AI's future? How AI's future would look like for me as an individual, for me as an organization, for me as a nation, for me as an institution. I must set the framework. I must decide how AI will work for me. That is what is important in the human oversight. People will remain accountable for decisions that affect people, that affect the business, and that affect society. Very important. AI is not shaping our future. We are shaping the future of AI. And we build in trust by design, because we're not letting AI run away and say, what did AI say today? No. What do we want AI to say? What do we want AI to do? What do we want AI? How do we want AI to behave within our systems? When we're creating the AI agents, we're telling them what we need them to do within our system. Trust cannot be embedded later. No, it must start from the beginning, all the way from the ideation, all the way to the end of the process. And that will take me to the closing. And then we'll see if I have a few minutes, if you have questions, or we'll take them at the end. Now, in closing, I just want to tell us a few things, right? We talked about all the actions that we must take. And, I hear that we're going to share the slide. So you will look at the details of how to set those rules, how to build the capability that is needed when you're building the governance framework. You have to put in the approved use cases, the accountability, the risk, the control, and we've spoken to all that. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, this is just giving us more details on their actions that we must take, embedding trust and ethics from the design. Let's go to the next slide, please. And there, I want to say that, as our other speakers break down for us, the AI strategy, which is part of our AI policy as Nigeria, there are main things that policy talks about, and I'll let them speak more to that as the experts in that. But the Nigeria's AI strategy actually creates a good framework for us to build on. It creates a good foundation for us to build on. It speaks to transparency. It speaks to accountability. It speaks to human oversight. It speaks to inclusiveness. Okay, so it only becomes meaningful for us as organizations when employers turn them into workplace policy, governance discipline, responsible adoption, and measurable accountability. Very, very important. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So in closing, I want us, to think about a few things, okay? The task before us as organizations, as we've said, is, to translate the opportunity that we have into responsible use. And we can ensure that by putting the right governance around the structure. AI will shape competitiveness, yes. It will shape productivity, yes. And it can shape institutional trust if we put the right governance behind it. The organizations that will create lasting impact and lasting value will be those who deploy AI responsibly, who govern it deliberately, and who keep people accountable at the center of decision making. So, the opportunity is vast, the opportunity is significant, the opportunity is, the capabilities, if you look at the numbers, the opportunities that the World Bank tells us, that the number of billions that we can unlock by responsible use of AI is impressive. And we must, as organizations, take advantage of them. But the governance is our responsibility, and we have the ability to put that governance in place. That is what we need to do as responsible organizations, ensuring that we're driving governance, which is the G part of the ESG, governance around ethics, around financial management, around human resources management, around stakeholder engagement, now around AI, adoption of AI. Very important that we do that. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. And thank you again to NECA for organizing this very important conversation. And thank you to all the speakers who are joining us in this session to throw more light on how we can adopt as organizations Nigeria's AI strategy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In fact, even before I could say anything, we can see all the emojis appreciating you. Thank you. Well done. Thank you so much. It was indeed a wonderful presentation. You told us how AI has become very central to the way we work and why it has to be governed. You've emphasized the need for trust because it's the pillar on which we use AI. Trust is a currency, and it's therefore necessary for us to put in place those governance structures that will protect our data, that will help us to be able to meet our obligations to our stakeholders. And you've given us action points for employers. So thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You haven't disappointed us at all.
Thank you.
So we'll be going
you.
on. So we will ask that for your questions that you please drop them in the chat box. We'll be having an interactive session shortly after we have finished the presentations. We'll collate those questions and then we will present them for our resource persons to answer. So please drop your questions in the chat box. We'll collate them as the sessions go on. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So we'll be going on to the next session, and we have in our midst Madam Linda Obaji, who is representing the National Commissioner of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Madam Linda is a legal practitioner with over 8 years of experience in litigation, regulatory compliance, data protection, and legal advisory. She began her career in private practice, handling complex elections. We're in the election season now, criminal, civil, and commercial matters before transitioning to regulatory and data protection practice. She currently serves as a legal officer at the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, where she advises on data governance, privacy compliance, regulatory enforcement, and legal framework. She also facilitates data protection training for organizations, startups, and SMEs. So she has a strong expertise in the intersection of law, technology, and public policy. Linda is committed to advancing data privacy, cybersecurity, regulatory compliance, and responsible digital governance in Nigeria. So with warm emojis, please let us welcome Linda Obaji, who will be taking us on the next session. Welcome, Linda. You have the floor, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Please, am I audible?
Hello, Linda.
Yeah?
All right, please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Linda. When you were reading all of that, I thought at some point I was saying, Nami, is this for me or for somebody else? But that's a lighter note. Thank you, Madam Victoria. Thank you, Mr. DG, for organizing this wonderful knowledge sharing. So, a lot has already been said. Like when Madam Victoria was given, sorry, I'm using the word Madam. I'm so used to it. Madam, her. I'm so used to it. So when she was presenting, I was like, there's really nothing for me to say again because she has practically said everything. But the only thing is we'll keep talking about it and we'll keep saying the same thing no matter how repeatedly it has been said, just for us to understand the importance of it and why it is necessary that we have a good not data governance now, we have a good AI governance, because the truth of the matter is it's not going to take our jobs. Yeah, AI is not taking anybody's job, but is how we handle it will determine if we are going to make progress with it or if it's going to rip us off. So that's how I say it. And I had cause to attend this last ISACA's conference that went on this week. And the whole conversation around everything is trust, human intervention. Yes, AI is here to make our work easy, but we should not let everything into it because it's still a computer, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you give it, that is what it will give in turn. So we should make sure that there's always human supervision in what we have to do. And it's no longer the requirement, or it's no longer just the work of an IT internet officer or a data protection officer or a compliance officer. No, it's now a conversation that leadership of every organization is expected to put into consideration and then act on it, not just putting it into consideration and then we'll leave it there. So act on it and make sure that we are using all these tools responsibly. Put what we're expected to put in, and then there are some sensitive information that ordinarily shouldn't get into the device. So it shouldn't. So this has just been the conversation that has just been on my head since this week, and I'm happy I will be facilitating this, and then we're still going to continue the conversation. And then the fact that we're not taking data protection and privacy away from AI. AI is why we are putting AI into consideration. We should also attach the data protection, the privacy risk, all the breaches, all the things that we need to do to make sure that we put it in place. They should be privacy by design and default when deploying any AI tool, or when we are even using an AI tool. There must be an AI policy that every organization is expected to have. So the conversation around it is very interesting. But like I said, AI is not taking our jobs, but how we use it would determine if it's going to be proficient for us, or if it's going to make us pay penalties to the regulators, which Nigerian Data Protection Commission will be glad to collect. Yeah, we'll be glad to collect it. So that leads me to the topic of today: artificial intelligence, data protection, and privacy. Navigating Nigeria emerging AI policy and regulatory landscape. So practically, what I have here is more like a guide. Madam Victoria had already done a fantastic job laying the foundation and all of that. So I'm just going to be talking about how AI and then data protection work hand in hand. So we're not expected to just put AI policy while we leave data protection on. Sorry, I just saw the comment. While leaving data protection issue unattended. So we are trying to marry it, and then let's see how we can work around it together. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes, why this conversation matters. Artificial intelligence is rapidly becoming an embedment in every organization right now. So from recruitment and managing of employee, providing financial services and credit, delivering healthcare, market products and personalized services, detect fraud and cyber threats, yes, analyze customers' behavior, make predictions and recommendation. I also heard when Madam Victoria said when she wants to make a summary, of course, you go to ChatGPT. And in the course of the training I had, yes, on Monday. So one of the speakers said that now AI has made it so easy for us that you can summarize 30 pages into 3 pages. And then when I'm like, please summarize the summary. So now summarize the same 3 pages into maybe a sentence or 2-line sentence for us to understand and make it easy. Yeah, the time I would take to read 10,000 documents, I could just give it and then it will give me summary of the summary. It makes life easy, yeah? So but we should use it responsibly. So that's why this whole conversation is around it. And then yes, interact with citizen and customers, chatbots, process photograph, voices, biometrics, and other personal data, and then generate text images, which I saw a picture of someone of recent. And then I'm looking at this person and I'm looking at the picture. I'm not understanding. But who am I to say that it was generated? I can't say that. But the person I know does not look, it's similar, but it's not the same person, but I cannot say it. Because if I say it, I'll become an enemy of someone using AI. So you get, but the question is no longer, can we use AI? It is, can we use AI lawfully, fairly, securely, transparently, and responsibly? So that is now the conversation around all of this. It's not a question that whether we can use AI. We're already using it. But are we using it in a lawful manner, in a fair manner? Is it secured? Are we being transparent? And then are we being responsible? Next slide, please. Yes, why are we talking about AI and data protection? Earlier, we've mentioned biometrics, we've mentioned facial features and all of that. Now, because when we classify the meaning of personal identifiable information, these are information that someone can be used or to identify a living person. So, of course, facial recognition, when I put a facial recognition of someone, I could say, okay, this is Mr. A, or this is Mr. B, or this looks like Mr. A, but he is not necessarily Mr. A, but he has the face of Mr. A. Or when we talk of the biometrics, fingerprints, and all of that, it can be used to identify someone. So AI creates a new dimension of data protection risk because systems can process enormous volume of personal data, infer information that individuals never directly provide, profile individuals, make or support consequential decisions, reduce historical bias, sorry, not reduce now, reproduce historical bias, expose personal data through prompts or outputs, then retain information in ways users may not understand, and then generate realistic representation of identifiable individual. I just mentioned it. So every organization adapting AI should treat privacy and data protection as part of AI governance, not an afterthought. I know I made mention of this when I don't know, should I say that's an opening remark? Okay, in my opening remark. So I said, now it's no longer if we're going to be using AI, but now how are we using it? And then we should embed privacy and data protection as part of our governance issues, as part of things that we need to put into place. Not just now, we're not just basically going to be talking about AI governance and then leaving data protection governance alone. All of them, they marry each other and they work hand in hand. Next slide, please. So understanding the AI and personal data protection relationship. Now, like I'm making reference to Madam Victoria. It's no longer a question if we use AI for recruitment, if we use facial recognition, if customers use chatbots, if we use it for credit scoring, generative AI, marketing. Now, like a lot of persons don't even take time to even sit down and draft message, texts or even emails anymore. You just prompt it, it does the whole thing, and then he knows the time to send it off. And then when that time comes, automatically he sends it. So if there's no human intervention, you wouldn't have known that, oh, there might be an error in this, and at this point, it shouldn't send it this way. But once you give a computer or you prompt an AI to do something, it does not like ask again. Something might happen that I shouldn't. Once it has been prompted, it do whatever it has to do at the time it has to do it. So whether we like it or not, whether we come in or we don't come in, provided it has already been given that time, it will go, right? So now that is why we're trying to understand the relationship between data protection and then AI, or personal data and AI. For recruitment, of course, CVs, it has names, qualification, employment history. For facial recognition, it has facial images and biometric data. For chatbots, of course, sometimes if it's, I've never worked in a customer care, but I know when I have issues with my utility, that let me say DSTV, and then the day the app will decide not to be doing well. And then they will now be like, okay, use the chat. When you use the chat, it will ask for your decoder number. And then you we input it, and then you now ask me, okay, what are the errors I'm seeing on my screen and all of that. So now I am creating a history with that. And then whenever I want to I don't know how they are storing it. I've never for once asked how they keep this thing and all of that. So that is why we need to even hold every organization processing personal information accountable as well, because I give you something in believing that it is safe. So in other words, you should also keep it safe, right? Then issue of credit scoring, financial and behavioral information, prompting, uploading. now, like we said, giving us summary of the summary. We can upload confidential information or confidential documents from the office that has names and details of customers, and then we'll just upload it just because we need the summary and we don't want to take the stress of going through reading. Now we have given the AI from whatever purpose we are now using it. We now fed it with extra information that it did not ask us, right? So we should. These are some of the relationship between AI and data protection and privacy or personal information relation. So all AI does not necessarily involve personal data, but however, many real life AI applications do. So when we post when we prompt it with some of the informations of other people, aside the offices or the package that the office had already signed off, we had already fed it with extra more, and then with that, it will also enhance its productivity without even, of course, it will not get back to us. So next slide, please. So the critical point, personal data can enter an AI system at multiple stages: during collection, during training, fine-tuning, testing, deployment, monitoring, output, retention, and deletion. Therefore, organizations must consider privacy throughout the life cycle of an AI. Next slide. Yes, Nigeria emerging AI governance landscape. As what's wrong with me? Madam Victoria had already mentioned the national AI policy and national AI policy and strategy. At least it shows that whatever we are doing, we should be transparent in it, and also we should be lawful. Also, we should what's the third? We should have human approach to it, and then in order to prevent bias, and also to include issues, including ethical issues and all of that. So the federal government has developed Nigerian National Artificial Intelligence Strategy to promote responsible and inclusive AI adoption and economic development. The strategy has emphasized a human-centered approach and consideration of issues including ethics, bias, and privacy. Of course, the Nigerian Data Protection Act of 2023 provides the primary or the legal framework for the protection of personal data and then privacy. And then the General Application and Implementative Directive operationalizes the provisions of the Nigerian Data Protection Act, and then expressly addresses emerging technologies, including AI, and then sector-specific regulator. I know CBN has its own regulation, and also I know organizations are expected to develop their own policies and all of that. So basically, and then Nigeria is increasing our participation in the global discussion around AI, governance, data protection, and privacy issues around it, where I know, let me say of the fact that the Nigerian Data Protection Commission is really doing a lot in the area of data protection and privacy, just trying to get global recognition for us to probably have a clearer understanding or have more global recognition when it comes to issues surrounding data protection and privacy. And the fact that we hosted the Network of African Authority Conference last year in Nigeria, putting us after barely like a year or 2 years of becoming a commission or becoming a regulatory body, putting Nigeria at like the pace that get ahead of other African countries, right? So that's what I can say. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, the objectives, of course, safeguard fundamental rights and freedom of data subjects, regulates the processing of personal data, promotes secure data processing practices, ensure fair, lawful, and accountable processing, protect data subjects' rights, provide remedies when violated, impose obligations on organizations or data controllers and processors, establish an independent data protection authority, which is the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, and then support trusted use of personal data, including Nigerian digital economy. Why this matter for AI? The act is a technology nutrient. An organization cannot avoid data protection obligations simply because processing is performed by an algorithm, by an AI model, by a cloud infrastructure, an automated decision system, or a third-party platform. So the thing about the act is, no matter what you're doing, you're going to be held liable for it. If you say an organization, if you say, okay, this was done by an AI, who is behind the AI? AI does not work on its own unless there's a prompt. It does not work on its own unless there's something prompting it to work on its own. So whether you are using a third-party platform and then you're saying, okay, yes, whatever happened because I was using a third-party platform to work, it doesn't matter. We'll hold NDPC will hold the organization accountable, right? So that is it. We are not saying, so it's not like if an organization does something and it necessarily doesn't matter who does it. What matters is, are you putting all the measures that you need to put in place? So I heard that of recent, it's not even of recent, Krog is owned by Elon Musk, right? So a country is suing Elon Musk for an act that someone prompted and he used Krog to carry it out, putting facials and like a different face and then a naked body and then posting it on that. Am I the only one that noticed that? Please, let me confirm if you can hear me. Okay. Please, can everybody hear me? Okay.
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to be sure that I'm not the only one that heard that. So now, if we're prompting AI, we should be responsible with it as well. Right? Next slide, please. So we're going to be talking about the principles. There are 7 principles when it comes to processing of personal data: lawfulness, fairness, and transparency, purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, security, and accountability. So organizations remain responsible for demonstrating compliance. So no matter what you're doing, you're held accountable for it. Right. Next slide, please. Some of the lawful basis. So most times consent is not an automatic answer. Every organization can rely on other bases to process personal data, provided you're not breaching any rights under Section 37, and also you are processing in line with the principles of processing that I've just mentioned a few seconds ago. So you can rely on consent as well, but it's not always an automatic answer. And then also you can rely on contracts, legal obligation, vital interest, public interest, legitimate interest, and all of that. And then before using personal data to train, test, prompt, or operate an AI system, you should ask these following questions. What is the precise purpose? What lawful basis supports my processing? Was the data originally collected for this purpose? Is there further processing compatible with the original purpose? Is the processing necessary? Have data subjects been adequately informed? Are there special categories or sensitive personal information? Is there a less intrusive way to achieve the same objective? So if there are less intrusive way to achieve the same objective, you could go through that route. But if you've answered all of this, you can go ahead to process. Next slide, please. I have 10 minutes, so I have to be fast. AI, policy, and then automated decision making. AI can be used to score individual, rank application, predict behaviors, and all of that, We've already said that. The Nigerian Data Protection Act defines automated decision making as a decision made solely through automated process without human involvement. And then the Nigerian Data Protection Commission has specifically highlighted circumstances around unauthorized profiling and automated decision making, particularly where AI is used in consequential areas such as employment, loan, and healthcare. And the Act also makes provision that it's part of data subjects' right that you should not subject a data subject to automated decision making without human intervention, right? Next slide. So organization now safeguards when AI contributes to consensual decision, identify the role of human oversight, which Madam Victoria had already even mentioned, provide meaningful information about the process, establish review and escalate mechanism, monitor for discriminatory outcomes, maintain records of decision, logs and governance, logic and governance, provide appropriate venue for individuals to challenge decision. Human oversight must be meaningful, not merely human clicking approval. So it's not like someone should go through it and not just by clicking and then we are moving. Next slide. AI bias and fairness and discrimination. Madam Victoria has already said it, but I'll just use the example. An organization using an AI to screen a job. If the AI is trained using historical recruitment data, where certain type of candidates were constantly preferred, that AI may learn that and pattern and continue favoring similar candidates, even if the organization does not intend to discriminate. So that's why we should work on its biasness, and then depending on what we train the AI with. So if you train it to be biased, it will get biased. Or if you train it in a particular model, it will get biased and then work with that model that it has been trained for. Next slide. AI bias, fairness, and discrimination. AI learns pattern from data. What organizations should do. Before and during the use of AI, organizations should check the data, test the AI, identify unfair outcomes, correct identified problems, maintain meaningful human oversight. Next slide. So by the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, by the Data Protection Act, if you are any organization that is deploying an AI tool or emerging technology tool is expected to conduct a data privacy impact assessment, just to be sure that the technology that you intend to deploy is not going to cause harm to the data subjects, or it cause future harm to the data subjects, right? Then generative AI, the new employee privacy challenge. Of course, employee may unknowingly put customers' information, employee record, contracts. I think Madam Victoria had mentioned all of that. So an employee copies a customer's complaint into a public AI tool and then asks, summarize, and draft. We all do this, right? It's not only me. Summarize the summary. We all do it. But what we should know what to put, and then to the limits we should put into the AI. Next slide. So for everyone using a generative AI, the organization, what personal data should disclose, who receives the data, where is it processed, is the provider acting as processor, what happens to the information. Like I said, even me, I don't used to ask, but these are things we are expected to do. Is the processing covered by an appropriate agreement? Are international transfers involved? Of course, international transfers involved because Plug and the rest of them are not a Nigerian product, right? So every organization should develop an AI acceptable use policy for the organization. And I'm glad that Madam Victoria mentioned the fact that it is not just an IT issue, it is not just the head of compliance issue, it is more like a leadership issue. So policies should be made on how employees should use generative or should use AI in general. Next slide. I think all of this, privacy by design, I know I mentioned it in, so privacy by design, identify, assess, mitigate, and then implement. So there must be data minimization, anonymization, access control, encryption, and exclusion, retention, human oversight. That cannot be overemphasized. And then explainability, testing, auditability, and then bias control, and then incident response. And then by default configuration should provide the strongest reasonable privacy protection. Next slide. I barely have, I think I've even overused my time. Data privacy by design, data protection impact assessment. I've already mentioned that. So we could just know what is involved and what is involved, who data subjects involved, the purposes, and all of that. Next slide. So what the guide said, section Article 43 is on emerging technologies. So you could take your time, go through the guide. It's on the NDPC's website. You can go through the act as well, just for clearer, just to have a clearer understanding of what it is. And then the guide provides that organization deploying or intending to deploy an emerging intelligence such as AI, Internet of Things, blockchain for processing of personal data must consider taking the act into consideration, putting privacy notice and the guide and other regulatory instruments issued by the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. Next slide. I think I should have a few. What is the organization? AI adoption cannot be treated as an IT decision. We had already said this. It has illegal compliance, risk, governance, security, plus privacy decision. And then before deploying, AI can use data mapping, lawful basis. Organizations should establish, AI use, data mapping, lawful basis, risk assessment, vendor assessment, security control, human oversight, deployment, monitoring, and review, constant review. Next slide. The role of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, we already know. The Nigerian Data Protection Commission is a regulator that supervises how personal data are being used and enforced, and then we enforce the Nigerian Data Protection Act. We provide guidance, compliance, support, risk prevention, enforcement, yes, investigate breaches and all of that, and then support innovation, public awareness, and then international cooperation. Next slide. The NDPC. So now we have a regulatory framework, which is the act, and then we have an implementative framework, which is the guide. Then in the guide, we have a template on a structured template for a DPIA, and then data governance, and of course, we keep engaging in area that has to do with data, artificial intelligence and data governance. I think that is even why some of me and my colleague is even attending the conference / the workshop that has to do with advanced artificial intelligence risk as well, just to keep us updated with issues surrounding AI and data governance. And then Global Privacy Assembly and NDPC is part of them. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide. What the commission has done. Next slide. This slide should be shared at the end of the day. Next slide. Data subject rights, right to be informed, access, rectification, the right to object, right to restrict processing, right to portability, right to erasure, forgotten, right to not to be subjected to automated decision making, and then right to lodge a complaint with the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Now, the NDPC publicly identifies these rights and provide mechanism through which individuals can exercise these rights. Next slide. The practical step, first 10 practical step, identify what AI system we are deploying, map what data personal data enters, passes through, or leaves the system, justify what is purpose and lawful basis, minimize, we can achieve the objective with less personal data, assess, is a DPIA required, security, what technical and organizational measures, governance, who is responsible for the AI system, humanize, where are human oversight and intervention required? Monitor, are the systems output accurate, fair, and consistent? Review, does the AI system remain necessary, appropriate, and compliant? Next slide. What to do and what not to do, understand the organizational policy, do not post data and customers' database online, use only approved AI to do not upload confidential employee information without approval, minimize personal data, treat AI outputs as potentially inaccurate. So make sure that whatever the AI gives you, you should go back to recheck it just to be sure that it is accurate. Then consider confidentiality and data protection before uploading. Do not assume anonymization simply because names have been removed. Next slide. I think this should be it. For organization, this is a strategy, development, deployment, monitoring, and retirement. For employee, adopt the mindset, pause, protect, verify, and then escalate. For developers, include privacy by design, security by design, and then human oversight. For leadership, what problem are we solving? What personal data are we processing? What rights and risks are involved? What safeguard have we implemented? Can we demonstrate accountability? On a whole, AI is not taking our job, but it is important that we use it responsibly. Yeah. I think next slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Linda, for that very insightful and enlightening presentation. Your presentation has given us deeper understanding of Nigeria evolving AI's policy and regulatory framework and the importance of governance in ensuring responsible AI adoption. I'm sure the participants have seen evidence that they are truly enjoying this section, where everyone is listening attentively with the discussion and taking notes. It's my pleasure to also invite Madam Chisom Ajero. Madam Chisom Ajero is a seasoned business strategist and innovative leader with over 24 years of experience across the energy, assurance, and consulting sector. She specializes in AI strategy, innovation, digital transformation, and business leadership, with certification from Harvard Business School Online and MIT Expo. She is currently the Deputy General Manager, Partner Relations, Deep Water Asset at Total Energy Exploration and Production Nigeria, and she previously contributed to industry advocacy as chairperson of the PIB subcommittee of OPTS at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She holds an executive MBA from London Business School. She's also a fellow of ICANN and has a degree in accountancy from the University of Nigeria. She's also passionate about creativity, sport, youth development, and community leadership. So my participant, please, let's join us and welcome Madam Chisom to the table. Thank you very much, Madam Chisom.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be in the midst of Mecca. And as you see, I'm standing. So I stand on all existing protocols as I just share our journey in Total Energies when it comes to AI, digital, and everything in that area. I believe that my slides will be shared. So in our brief was to share our organization's innovation and AI adoption journey. In that, we will be talking about the governance frameworks that we adopt, our policies, things that we put in place to support responsible AI use. In presenting, I will share with you some key lessons that we learned in that journey and also the challenges that we encountered. Trust me, there are challenges. And then I will close out with practical recommendations for organizations with all you great gentlemen and women around the table should you want to get into that journey. So I would say let's start. Next slide. So I'll be telling our story as a company. So I just brought a slide from one of our HQ briefings a while ago. And I just want you to look at the caption towards the left of the screen. And it says that, data, AI, and digital, that it is beyond the technologies. It's transforming our operations, transforming the way we work. So it's about transforming the way we operate using technology, AI, and data. Another thing I wanted to notice on the timeline is that from this year forward, even though we're a company with vast experience in energy, exploring and producing hydrocarbon energies, electricity, we can imagine that we want to be a digital company going forward because we've realized that digital is at the core of every business venture that we go into. Next slide. Could you please move to the next slide? Thank you. So essentially, just saying that this is the mandate. I can tell you that a couple of years ago, this was not the case with the company. It took a bit of, so that's the mandate from our HQ. But then in Nigeria, we had to localize and build our own journey, and take our own steps in a sense to be able to take further that mandate to become digitally minded from year 2026. So really, this is the beginning of our story in Total Energies in Nigeria, with the push to become more innovative, to adopt digital. In 2022, the company heeded that and created an entity called the Digital and Innovation Entity. And we had 4 mandates, as you see there. So the idea was that we had to build the talent for the future. We had been able to convince the leadership that it was crucial to move the company in a direction that allows the future to be able to take on the baton from where we will leave it. I don't know about you, but it's a revolving door, and it's important to build your organizations for the future. The current may seem great. It may look, I would say, prosperous, but the greatest strategic issue for leaders is to ensure that the talent for the future is put in place. So the first mandate was build the talent for the future, build people, build the younger talent that will be able to take the company to the next level. And of course, AI, digital innovation was a pathway. We also had a mandate, not just to join AI or do digital because we wanted to be in the trend. It was to transition into an efficient and more simpler organization. It was to reduce the layers of work, eliminate bureaucracy, and increase our resource sharing. Of course, when you're in that space, collaboration is key. The third mandate was to digitize our processes and our ways of working. There, we were going to accelerate our digital strategy, establish a digital mindset, streamline workflows, target sustainable, our operational expenditure for the product that we're making, which is hydrocarbons, and of course, optimize our external spend, find ways to use it to reduce the way we spend or to reduce our cost. So essentially, when you're adopting AI, when you're adopting digital, you have to have an objective. You will not just be doing it because you want to be in the trend, but you have to have an objective of the organization to reach. Next slide. So essentially, we were mandated with these four targets. One thing I wanted to highlight to you is that, this is our organogram because the session is about presenting our story. So when we began, if you watch carefully, the digital and innovation is carefully, thoughtfully placed in the strategy, business, and asset management entity. Please take note for those who want to deploy this. It is not IT. You don't take AI team or the digital team and plug them into maybe corporate services where they will probably go and, in quotes, die a natural death. It was seen as a strategic lever for our operational efficiency, and it was thoughtfully and carefully placed within our strategy, business, and asset management entity. So for companies who want to do that, this is an example. It works because it gives the team the ability to be creative. It reduces all the bureaucratic layers in an organization and enables them move forward with the new insights and the new approaches, and of course, transforming the way of working. We can move on to the next one. So as you can see, for us, we started as a very lean team of just 8 people. Okay, so this is essentially to say that when you're working in this sort of structure, it's important that you have a flat structure, a team where, somewhere in the US, MIT will call it X teams. So these are teams where people are not too concerned about who is the Oga or who is the Madam or who is 3 layers above. Of course, that structure is there, but you're in a place where people can collaborate more quickly. People are not exactly looking at what their roles and the accolades that they have. You have to put it as a startup. So I would say that we began as a startup. So in there, you have an engineering lead, you have a product manager, you have a data analytics manager, you have operational data leads, and then you have the design and innovation leader and change management. All of these were concerted to be able to transform the company and transition the workforce into a space where they will be AI ready, future ready. So I think this is an example to share because in that flat structure, we were able to take decisions quicker. We were able to collaborate more quickly. Of course, we were using the agile methodology and there was clear ownership about what stream each person was dealing with. Next slide. So with that, we had key things to do. Of course, we had a mandate. We were given a target. So when you're creating an organization that will handle AI or handle digital, they have to have a target. Sometimes people tend to see it as a place where you go and drink coffee, or maybe you're in Google where there are bright colors in the offices. That is good as well, but we have to have a mandate. So we had a target as to what we were going to do to improve our business processes to have cost savings. That ensures that this is business being done, not just improving the way work is done. So of course, we had our digital product management and operations data management. You will learn about why data is super key as I go forward. And lastly, the innovation and change management, which is very important. I want to thank our speakers who have spoken. Victoria did speak to something. It was about the people. So AI in the organization, we have to know that the transformation is more about the people than the technology. So in that area, the company embarked on significant talent upskilling. I can tell you that that was a great part of our budget. We needed to support our staff to rise up to the challenge because there were people, of course, in the era of COVID who were not able to use simple things like a whiteboard or essentially have meetings on Teams. We needed to invest in developing our staff to come up to that level. You will see the details as we go on the next slide. So we did a couple of things And in doing that, we were able to use certain levels to ensure that we were using AI responsibly, that we were rolling out digital products in a way that was ethical and in a way that met our business objective. So we had a way of identifying our use case. That you can use AI, you can't use AI for everything. So we had to have rules on how we identify our use cases and a framework for identifying that as well. We also looked at our product adoption levels. How are you going to get people on board? Yes, you can use AI for work, you can use it in your personal space, but when we're talking about business transformation, you need to ask yourself, how will your staff buy in? How are you going to get the staffing the buy-in of your staff? We also used a level of change management. This is where we pull in both people at the top, people in the front line, and ensure that they are aware of what is happening. She did talk so much about communication. So communication is crucial from the beginning to the end. Then, of course, we used capability building, crucial, and we worked heavily on the culture and the mindset. As you would learn later, culture is a major barrier to AI. A lot of people don't believe, sometimes people even think that AI is, in our parlance, juju and all of that. So you need to change that mindset. You need to work on developing your staff to adopt it in a way that will allow AI give you the results that you want as a business. And in doing that, one of the levers was to create our own digital and innovation champions network, where we want people to be AI literate for their everyday work. We had some low-code, no-code tools helping them develop that, and of course, governed with our cybersecurity and data guardrails. We had to do that to ensure that we're not just adopting AI, but we're putting an AI that passes all the tests. Because for our company, as you know, we're a French company, we operate under the GDPR, which is one of the most stringent laws around data. And we have to put in all these measures to ensure that we don't fall short of that. Moving on to the next slide, I want to just talk about a couple of things that we did. So in our space, we organized events to bring our staff up to speed. We did a couple of things. So in trying to become a digital AI-driven company, we needed to set up spaces. So today in our company, we had to set up what we call the Total Energies Innovation Zones. So these are rooms and spaces dedicated to innovation, digital, everything technologies, because it's a stamp to say, this is the direction that we're going to as a company, and we're saying it and we're putting our money to it. So you see it at the picture towards the bottom left. We also had challenges, sort of like hackathons. We have innovathons. We also have innovation competitions, for a sense to bring our staff up, to let them know that this is the way to go forward if you're really going to be digital, if you're really going to have a mindset of someone who is like a digital native. Maybe not be a digital native, but of course have that mindset that will enable you operate in that way in the current workforce. You will agree with me that if anyone wants to exist in the current workforce today and add value, this is the way to go. So as a company, we took the time and upskilled our staff, giving them the opportunity to switch from the old way of work into the fourth industrial revolution and even the fifth, to enable them continue to add value and have fulfillment in the work that we do. Next slide. So just to show you a bit of our numbers, in 1 year, so far we've trained about 373 staff across 36 sessions of different sorts of training programs. So this is to show you the example. So we've done trainings in Copilot. And by the way, Copilot is our company's approved AI tool. As someone mentioned earlier, as a company, you need to decide which one are we going to use as a company. It's no longer time to say, oh, my staff are not using it, or it's not necessary. It is necessary. It is the way of life. So you need to sit down as a company and decide which to adopt. But this is just to show you that we intently invested in our staff to upskill them, to change their mindset, and make them ready for the AI world. Next slide. So this is essentially around our governance framework. I know that we were talking about governance, so this is a very important slide in this presentation. So just to show you what we do and to ensure that the digital products, the AI projects that we go into are governed even at the affiliate level, that is in Nigeria. We have a portfolio management committee, which happens internally within the department. So there we look at what we're creating. We check that the use cases are aligned, that they're ethical, that they're indeed being identified to solve a company problem, not just being done because we want to have an AI project. No. So we meet monthly to have those conversations, look at the list of things we want to do and sort of valorize it. And then after that, it moves to the next gate of decision making, where you have a control tower. So a control tower is a multidisciplinary committee where different people from the different axes of the company, audit, IT, sit around the table and review the project that you are doing. And that is to be able to give you a lens of how does this project impact me? So when you're looking at responsible AI actually involves the integration of ethical considerations and practices at every stage of that AI, whether it's in the design or in the development or the deployment or the monitoring. So as we do that, we take it to the next level in a group of people who will look at these measures and say, okay, how does this impact this? You want to create this. Some of us are aware of the case that Meta had, I think somewhere in California, where a parent said that they were responsible for the mental health condition of their child. And I can tell you that when Meta was creating Facebook or IG, they didn't think of the effect it would have. You know, our chair carefully talked about anything you're getting for free and the fact that you are the merchandise. Yes, we can post our pictures, we can be super happy, but the reality is that Meta was found culpable. So it's important to think of what we're creating. So even though we are developing a tool, we need to go to the next level, pass through that control tower, and then finally we go to what we call a steering committee. This is of all the leadership around the company. They will look at the tool and then give you the go ahead. So in our company, Total Energies, we have a pathway for X-raying the AI projects that we're doing to be sure that they're ethical, they're responsibly being created, and that the future impact, which we may not see today, would be analyzed, audited, and we assess the risks and decide whether we're going forward or not. So one of the values, and like I say, as a company, you need to decide what your values are. You cannot just adopt AI in the air. As a company, our productivity and quality is important to us, so it's one of the levers for measuring. We also believe in working where there is zero harm. So is that tool safe? Is that AI safe? We check that. We also check that it keeps us cost vigilant, that it lowers the unit cost of our product. If a product does not do that, then we don't go in that direction. We also hope that anything we adopt will give us a product optimization. And of course, we're very interested in greenhouse gases and projects that give us energy efficiency. So moving on, just as opportunities, as our brief was to show you a couple of things that we do in terms of the opportunities that AI can bring. One of them key to us is in the next slide, please. We use that for our asset maintenance and integrity. So we use AI predictive maintenance, condition-based monitoring, digital twins, that we have the quantum, even though we're moving on to the next thing. And then we have also the critical barrier management to maximize our uptime. We use AI for asset inspection and augmented worker. We also have our wearables, so where we don't want people to go into tanks anymore. In our industry, we have a lot of dangerous operations, so we're reducing the human exposure and using more of AI and robotics in that area. AI has given us great opportunities in our supply chain optimization. We're able to use it to detect and track our goods that we've purchased all over the world and ensure that the shipping and the transit of it is properly managed. So these are many things that we do. So our AI has to have, if it's a digital product, it has to be across the value chain of the entity that we decided to be in. And we believe that it has to be safe, and of course has sustainability at its heart. And of course, it has to be innovation with impact, not just doing it because we want to be part of the group, but it has to make sense to us. So your AI has to make sense. It might help you make your reports cheaper, but let AI help with your bottom line. Next slide. So the challenges we faced, we found out that, even in adopting AI, good as it was, we're in business with some people, and we identified that to get our partners' approvals became problematic. So we found out that we had to carry our stakeholders. So it's important in your governance, ensure that your stakeholders are aware and carried along. Then we discovered that we had multiple sources of truth. That's the theme, the challenge of data. So when we were doing AI, we found out that our data was all over the place. So many reports reporting the same thing, different numbers. So we had to work on that. We also had to deal with regulations in terms of our data residency regulations. My co-speaker has already alluded to that. Then, of course, the technologies and the resources. In an AI project, you can rest assured that to deploy that, that even though you had a budget X, you will not know that you've gotten to 3X for the project. So these are some of the challenges that we had. Next slide. So just to say, the key lessons we learned that we have to also deal with the culture. I spoke about that earlier. We had to also quickly learn from past projects. So we got insights from smaller big win projects that we had, and we applied it for the other projects that we're doing. We know that AI helps with interdisciplinary collaboration. It helps you address your high-level challenges and foster innovation amongst your teams. And of course, continuous learning, continuous capability development amongst our teams. All of that with leadership support at its foundation. You cannot deploy AI without your leadership support, and of course, managing your expectations, because sometimes AI is not the magic one. So it's important that you keep in mind, if you want to deploy this, this is the experience that we have today in Totalities. Next slide. So yes, keep going. So just practical recommendations for companies who want to go the AI path. So essentially, in your AI and data strategy, it's talking about what you want to do should you want to adopt AI. There you have to define your priorities. I have mentioned that it's not joining for joining the Joneses. You need to have what AI is doing for you. You have to have a problem AI needs to solve. So you define it, you have your goals, your milestones, your missions, your vision around it, and you have to focus on your technology investment to ensure that you have clear business outcomes. So the essential element of AI strategy, and that's a question I want to leave with organizations here. Where is your data? How is your data being managed? What is the quality of your data? What is the security of your data? Who owns your data? Who is keeping it? Do you have a data protection officer? Do you have a chief information security officer? And then what is your governance? What policies, what frameworks do you have in place? So AI will not deliver anything to you if you do not have your data strategy. Another key thing to look at is your infrastructure capability. You can have all the AI in the world, but if you do not have the infrastructure, for example, if your staff come to work and there is no, at the basic level, internet for them to use, it means that they cannot be in the AI space as they ought to be. So you need to think about that. You need to think about your ethical and responsible user guidelines, and of course, the AI talent considerations, employee buy-in, upskilling, reskilling, and workplace strategy. It does cost money, and you need to decide that you want to put your money to where your mouth is. So as I wrap up, implementing AI requires more than hiring data scientists. It demands strategy, organization, evangelism, and education at every functional level, from the senior leadership and to the frontline workers. Next slide. So as I wrap up, these are a couple of things you should look out for when you're implementing AI responsibly. We have talked about data, we've talked about ethics, you've heard a lot of that, bias and fairness. So yes, you want to use AI to recruit, but what is the algorithm on your AI tool? Is your AI tool designed to only employ men as engineers because they believe that men are the ones that are engineers and they're not women? So keep that in mind. Data privacy is super important. Risk management is super important. Interpretability, this is a key element. AI does all of these things, but is it explainable? Can you explain that to your shareholder who has 5 billion naira in a company, doesn't care so much about AI, but you have to explain the results that you've shown? You need to think about that. We've talked about safety, security, your data protection. There are many layers of security. It's not just getting an IT manager. There are many layers of data security and protection levels that you need to invest in. And of course, governance and compliance. I'm glad that we have the NDPC lady here who has talked about it. You have to stay aware of the regulations and the industry standards. Next slide. So I won't dwell here. She's given us a bit around Nigeria's AI governance. But what I have to say, for your benefit, don't wait for the final bills to come. Go out there and know what you can find out and see how your company is complying. And also for the NDPC, it's important to know that for AI, soft regulations are what's needed versus hard regulation. We want to believe that the regulations should not come to squeeze companies and make them not be innovative and creative. It's something that should be a guide and frequent audits to set them on the right path rather than being punitive. So keep that in mind, our commission. I hope that while you're developing the governance regulatory body, that you will call the players to the space. So this is just what I wanted to communicate here. And then, lastly, I think, yes, that should be the very last big information slide. Let's go. This is the last one. A few things to keep in mind. Digital transformation takes time. Sustained commitment is essential before impact becomes visible. Building a digital innovative culture is progressive and requires long-term dedication. You have to have midwives as your staff. Do you have them? Unanticipated issues will happen. Errors will happen, but for you to be an AI-driven, a digital company, you have to be able to forgive mistakes. Think about that, because it's from mistakes that we learn. And that's what the next point is saying. Progress comes from testing. Operational frustration will be expected, but we're going to continue to work to relate, to collaborate, to reduce the friction. And like I say, manage your compliance as a company. Enforcement is going to become more active, as we heard from our speaker. So be on top of your game and look forward. And I think my last thank you slide. So this is the message. The message here is that AI implementation is 70% about the people and 30% about the technology. So bringing your people along is super important. And I'm hoping that with that, if you're a company thinking about how to ride on this journey, that our story will inspire you and you will head towards success. I strongly believe that. So I've left you with a couple of pictures of what our innovation zones look like. And as you look at them, I hope that they're a viewing pleasure for you. Thank you again, Mecca, for having me. It's a pleasure to share the Total Energies EP Nigeria story in your midst today.
Thank you so much, Chisom. Yes, in fact, beautiful presentation. You can see all the emojis applauding you, asking for your slides. I wish I could make money from it because I'd be a very rich person. Thank you for sharing your wonderful story with us. Thank you for emphasizing the fact that it's all about people. Just 30% is just about the technology, the fact that they need to have a very strong governance structure. There's something that we are aiming for. There must be a strong objective. That is why you are putting it in place. Otherwise, it will be all over the place. You've told us that it has been, your strategy has been carefully integrated into your operations in a particular place. There's need for talent upskill. There's need for buy-in from all your stakeholders, from the investors to your employees, and there's a need for us to continue to ask questions. Why are we gathering the data? What is it for? Is it necessary? All those issues, and it has been a very enlightening session. We have had beautiful presenters throughout this session, and I'm sure that we have so many people that have taken away one thing or the other. One, the need for us to have governance structures, knowing that government has put in place regulations, and of course, giving us an example of how we can put it in place in our different organizations. So thank you very much indeed. We had asked if there were any questions, encouraging us to please put it on our chat box. I saw a lot of comments on how the participants wanted the presentations to be a wonderful example for them. They shared the benefits of having a corporate environment, AI in our corporate environment, the key objectives, which are economic growth, competitiveness, and social development, and of course, technological advancement. So a lot of lessons that we have learned. So I haven't seen any questions. I noticed that Lydia was very careful not to let us know what the cost of non-compliance is. She's just focused on ensuring that all of us are compliant. So we encourage all of us to be compliant. NECA is very big. While we are very big on advocating to ensure that your organizations are able to operate responsibly, we also are very passionate about compliance, ensuring that companies, employers are compliant so that they do not run foul of any law. Okay, so we have a question here. In a situation where your company data is already exposed to AI platforms, how would you go about it? So I think I will ask Chisom that question, since she took us on the how of the whole conversation that we are having. So Chisom, could you please enlighten us? And then if any of our speakers or presenters would also want to chime in, would also appreciate. Thank you. Chisom, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I see that question was asked by Hunter. Yes, so I mean, that happens. And like the previous speaker had said, when something happens, it's important that so the first step when your data has gone into a public space is to determine which space has it gone to. Okay, so identify the data platform that it has gone to. That's the first step. Then secondly, you have to check what sort of information, because at that point, you won't immediately call it a data breach. So when maybe there's been a leakage, I will just call that a leak. The first thing you do is, where did it leak to? What information is there? And the next thing you might want to do is to go into conversation with the AI platform. So what companies do, I did talk about our company going with Copilot, and I want to represent it this way. It's like you are going along the road and you're throwing your data exhaust, so essentially your data. It's called your data exhaust. In the AI world, when you're moving around as an individual, it's called a data exhaust, like when you're driving your car and you have fumes coming out of your exhaust pipe. So of course, the fuel of AI is data. AI is the car, but the fuel is data. Now, when you go to a specific AI platform, rather than throwing your data everywhere, what you do is to go and find out if you can buy a plot of land. I'm using things that will enable you to understand what you have to do. So you either go in there and say, can I buy a plot of land in this your land where my data exists? And when I buy that plot of land, I want you to fence it. I want you to put high walls. I want to have the kind of maximum prison walls where no other person near me can see it. So essentially, identify what sort of data has gone out. Have a conversation. If the AI platform is the one you may decide to work with, so I believe that you have your information security team who will have the roadmap of how to choose a reliable AI platform. You have to check your security policies and see if the company's platform meets the requirements of your internal policies. If it does, you want to consider buying a plot of land, i.e., maybe you have to continue to use them. If you want to continue to use them, you would have an agreement where they will house all your data local. So your data will be only localized to you. And that is if you've identified that a lot of data has gone in and maybe too much has gone out, they can then do an audit and find your part of the data and then put it on the plot of land you will buy in their real estate. I'm using real estate because this is how I also understood the subject. So that's what you can do. Find out what has gone out, identify the platform or the platforms, check if the information is super critical. Is this something that you can let go or something you need to be more particular about? So that will determine what you do next. But ultimately, what you can do is to go in there. For example, in our case, we went to discussion with Microsoft and we bought a plot of land. So everything is localized. I hope that helps. If you need to ask further questions, feel free to reach out to me through Nectar, and I'll be able to share more insights into what you can do.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just ask Linda in 1 minute, who is qualified to be a data protection officer? And is there any training that you need? Oh, okay, to comply. Oh, and we have our chair that also want to chime in. Linda, are you there? Okay. All right. So I'll just give the floor to our dear chair. Madam Victoria, please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chisom, for sharing that. I like the analysis of buying a plot of land, and it makes all the sense in the world. I just want to add that if there has been a leak, the other thing that is mandatory to do if it was a leak and there is some sensitive data that was exposed in that leak, it's important to inform the owners of the data so they know there's been a breach and then they can actually plug any potential outlets that people could try to use that data for any nefarious intentions. That's the only thing I'll add to that very comprehensive response that Chisom gave us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm being told we are to wrap up now. We promised 2 hours. Please, Lydia, please could you drop the answer on the platform, please, on the qualifications to be a DPO. So on this note, I would just like to say thank you very much to our wonderful resource persons who have shared their wealth of knowledge with us today. We are going home very much enlightened, more than what we knew before we came here. We've had a lot of requests for the presentation. We will be sharing it thanks to our facilitators. And what we would like from you is that you take this information and that you please start to apply it in your various organizations. Yes, she has said anyone can be a DPO. So please take this information, take this this data and let's start applying it. We would like you to also please continue to follow us on our various platforms for more information on all the different programs and activities we have at NECA, including our Employers Awards that is taking place in November. We'll be sharing that information to all of you subsequently. Thank you once more for joining us for this very enlightening session. on behalf of our Director General, Mr. Adewale Smart Oyerinde, we want to say thank you once more to our facilitators and wish you a wonderful rest of the day. My name is Adenike Adebayo Ajala, and it has been my pleasure taking you through this journey and conversation. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chisom. Thank you, Linda. That was a great one. Thank you, everyone who joined. Bye-bye.